Gordon Barnes, for those of you who don't know me. And it's my pleasure to take you through the weekend festivities. And first up, it will be my pleasure to ask the club president, our club president, Mr. Bill Williams, to come forward and make the opening remarks.
Can't see a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all I welcome you very cordially back to your club, with a special welcome to members who have travelled a long way. I also welcome all representatives of clubs from in and around Dunedin. It's certainly good to see you all here to help us start off our weekend celebration. The Centennial Committee have spared no expense to set up this weekend, so now it's up to you all to enjoy yourselves and make the whole weekend a success. Naturally, I'm very proud to be your president this centennial year, and I guess as you all look around our complex, you will see a lot of changes since the years that you played. But I think you'll all agree that we certainly have now something to be very, very proud of. Although we're 100 years old, the real growth of the club has taken place over the last 25 years, which I think is indicative of the growth of the Green Island district and also the spirit of that district. And when you think 100 years ago, we fielded one team, and the highlight of that year was a trip to Lawrence, which we lost. Hey? I can't remember it actually, I read about it. Now we managed to field 19 teams on a Saturday from schoolboy to senior grade. I believe all this growth must augur well for the next 100 years. There's no doubt, as you reminisce, there'll be plenty of games replayed, and many incidents, for good or for better or for worse, should I say, recalled, and many friendships renewed. And I think that's what Centennials are all about. I certainly would like to thank our senior team for coming along. It's certainly good to see you all here and spending some time with us. And I'm sure we all wish you well in your game tomorrow. Once again, I welcome you all and wish you very, very well for the weekend. Thank you.
We did decide to ask two people if they wouldn't mind sharing their reminiscences and experiences with us. And there were two who agreed. One gentleman, or the first gentleman we've asked to speak, is from a very well-known Green Island family, John Bezett.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to speak briefly on my era, which went from 1962 through until 1973, when we won the championship. Got no place to put my glass around here. I might as well drink it. I've been asked to speak for about 10 minutes, and that's all I intend to do. So I'll take you through right from my first year was in 1962, and the coach in those years was a very young Bert Harvey. The captain was Keith Adams, and I'll just run through the team as it was in 62. We had Neville Pringle was the president in those days. Bert, as I said, was the coach. We had Gavin Wright, Graham Nind, Keith Shields, Jimmy Smith, Lindsay Moyle over the back there in his togs. He's still got his jersey, old Lindsay. Mickey Bates, Huey McEwen, Les Larson, Kevin Williams, Barry Barnes, Ian Lamb, Morton Popper, I hardly recognise Morton there, Iron Brown, Ron Goff, Keith Adams, myself, and Ken Barnes. Now bear Ken in mind because he comes up later on in the story. In 1962, that was, as I say, my first year. We were in the Senior B competition, and that year we won, we were third. I'm getting carried away with winning. We were third in the Otago Rugby Football Union Senior B competition. In 1963, we were runners-up in the Senior B, but we were really a club that was struggling. I suppose in some ways we're like the Port Chalmers clubs is today. We were losing a lot of games. We were losing players to other clubs. We had probably, if all the players that lived in the Green Island era were playing for Green Island, we had had a very good senior side. There was 2 or 3 that come to mind that were playing over the hill at Southern and Otago reps, and we always felt that we were a bit behind the 8 ball and we were struggling. I don't think Jimmy Smith is here tonight, so I can honestly say we didn't have a goal kicker. And as I say, we're a bit like Port Chalmers. We come very close on a number of occasions, but we just didn't quite make it. This is no reflection on Bert's coaching. He did his best, but we're a pretty young bunch and lacking in confidence. We were also pretty low-key as far as our training was concerned. The boys used to go down to the pub after the training sessions, and we didn't train to the extent that a lot of you guys do today. We just weren't that serious. It was good comradeship. We enjoyed each other's company, but that's really about as far as it went. I'll mention one game in Bert's era that we were all very proud of, and I'm sure Bert was himself, and that was the time we played Varsity A. The competitions changed a lot in those days. The rugby union seemed to be in 2 minds as to what they were going to do, and sometimes one year we had 16 teams in the competition, split up into 2 sets of 8, and then we'd have 12, and then we'd be back to Senior A, Senior B, and that sort of thing. But one year we went up to Senior A, and we played Varsity A down at the University Oval. And that side was full of Otago reps and a couple of All Blacks. They had likes of Chris Laidlaw and Earl Curtin and the Bezett boys and Graham Poland. And they were a really classy side. And it was the side that a lot of the old boys look back on these days. Richard Hyam will know what I'm talking about. And we didn't actually beat them, Kearney, but we scored 17 points against them. I won't tell you what they scored against us. But that was a moral victory, and probably the first time that we really thought that we had a chance of doing something, you know, that this club really could go somewhere. I'm not sure if it was after that game or it was one of the varsity games. I got a bit involved with Ray Vibert, as a matter of fact, and we're invited to a student party. And we had a few beers, of course, and about 8 or 9, Ray and I wandered along to this party. I think Jack Aiken might have been involved in this too. However, we ended up at this party, and it was one of these parties, we had just greenhorns from over the hill, and there was a party where they had, you had to get body paint on. The psychedelic paint was in these days. And so we wandered up, and there was a couple of birds at the door and said, "Oh, boys got to get painted up." So we stripped off the shirts and what have you. And we got painted up and went in with like a couple of abos on a corroboree and sort of wandered around. And as the night went on, we lost a bit more of our gear and we got really painted up. And must have got home about 4 or 5 in the morning, I suppose. And the first thing I remember was my wife waking up screaming beside me. Ray, if any of you know Sandra, wasn't quite so lucky. I don't think she's ever forgiven him for coming home with his old man painted a psychedelic green. But going on to about the 63, 64 era, the second coach I had was Father Joe Cooney. And Joe came out here as a Catholic priest in Green Island for a number of years, and a fitness fanatic and a very, very passionate person, insomuch as he certainly didn't like being beaten, and for a Roman Catholic priest he had an unusual attitude towards his fellow man. For example, in his early days as a coach, we arrived over here probably in February or March or something. It's not like you guys doing today where you'd train all through the season. We'd just turn up with our jimmies, and first thing Joe said to us, right, it's an 80-minute game. We're going to be fit this year, so we'll have a training run to Mosgiel. So we literally run over to Mosgiel and back that night. And later on in the season, he would have training runs of 80 and 90 minutes of sprints to the 25 and back to the halfway and back and that sort of thing, and he would run right alongside us all the way. So we were extremely fit. I say that he's a passionate man. I'll just give you an example of one of his team talks. He'd get us in the training shed and he'd sort of stomp back and not say much, and then very slowly he'd say, "Are you going to take second best? Are you going to take second best?" And this is a Roman Catholic preach, you guys. Please. And of course we'd be sitting there quivering, and he'd say, "I want to see the blood on their backs." And of course, you know, we had guys on our side like Sir Ray Vibert and Murray Mackey and Jack Aiken. These guys didn't need this sort of encouragement. And you know, we'd go out onto the field in a frenzy. And I can recall talking to Brian Essel, who had actually played against us for Varsity B, and he actually came out here and played for the Green Island Club a few years later. And he said to me one day that, you know, that was the first experience he ever had of playing against Green Island. He just couldn't believe it. He said he honestly feared for his life. He said when you go down the ball, it was just like a pitter-patter of tags coming towards him and feet right over the top. And so that was Joe Cooney, very passionate. And it was probably about those times when we started winning a few games. We were always getting beaten by Taieri. Dunedin had a run of about 9 or 10 years where we didn't win a game against them. And I suppose we're in a situation where we were somewhat despondent. Although we always felt ourselves that we were improving, we really weren't going anywhere at all. The next coach on the scene about the 1966, 67, was Jack Calder. The captain at the time was Huey McEwen, and just some of the players in that team was some of the younger players coming through, and I see Brucey Milne was down here. He was in that team. John Driver, Donald McEwen, Hedge Bezett, Les Smale, very young Mervyn Jaffray, and David Laws. Now these guys were just starting to come into our side at that stage, and we were starting to improve a little bit. We also had in the side Lindsay Moyle still playing. Lindsay never ever counted the tight hairs, he just counted the kneecaps. In fact, I can tell you a story about Lindsay. It's always embarrassed me, but I think that I'm big enough now to take this. But in our early days, we used to go down to Invercargill, and we had something of a liaison with the Invercargill side, collegiate it was. Anyway, this night, the collegiate club always used to do it right. They'd arrange for some of the nurses from the Kew Hospital to come over and entertain us. Anyway, this night after the game there, I was at the bar with an attractive young nurse, doing my best, and I seemed to be doing all right. And I was going well for a couple of hours, and then later on the night, this little curly-headed Lindsay Moyle comes up, fairly full, and he muscles his way in, and he turns to this bird and he says, "This guy's got the biggest cruiser in Green Island." Well, you know, my face still reddens when I see the expression that crossed this young virginal nurse from the Kew Hospital. I'm sure she still wakes up at nights with nightmares thinking of Lindsay Moyle. But getting back to Jack Calder, Jack introduced a more scientific approach to the game. We started to sort of think about our game in those days, and we really were improving. As our president said earlier on, the population of Green Island was starting to grow. This is around the 66 through to 68 years. We were getting some junior sides that were coming through, and very good junior sides. And also our administration was improving. Some of the players that have been in the early sides had stuck with the club and were coming through and making a really good job of getting this club on its feet. We've put down a new clubhouse. This is the predecessor to this one here, and we're all very proud of that, and it was a real community spirit. And through until 1969, when Gordon Webb arrived on the scene. Now, Gordon introduced into this club a touch of professionalism, I suppose. He'd come down from Hamilton or somewhere, and for the first time, we really started believing that we could really go somewhere. We didn't ever think that we would win a competition, but Gordon managed, and I'll always give him credit for this. He had a personality clash with one or two of the members of the club, but top marks as far as his coaching was concerned. He introduced into this club a belief that we could really win and beat some of these sides that we've been playing against for years, like of Southern and Vasta and these teams. We never for a moment thought that we could beat them, probably until the late 60s and early 70s. And in 1969, we finally got rid of Lindsay Moyle. He was a selector in those days. Huey was our captain. And we won the Senior B competition in that year, and we were really looking really starting to look like we're getting somewhere. In 1970, we won our way up to the seniors, although once again the Otago Rugby Union had changed the competition around. We had in fact won our way through quite legitimately, playing promotion relegation the year before, where we had Senior B, Senior A. But in 1970, they changed the competition around and they had the 12 teams as we know it is today. And so we played that year in the senior competition, and we won the President's Trophy, which was the top side in the first 6 games, I think it was. By this time, we'd had quite a good following in the island, because we were really starting to play good rugby. We were an exciting brand of rugby. We were a type of rugby that hadn't been seen around the Otago area for a long time. People were starting to compare us with that earlier Varsity A side that I mentioned. We had a real talent in the side, and we started beating sides that had previously beaten us. We stopped the run of Dunedin, who had been beaten us 9 or 10 years in a row. We won for the first time the Griffin Memorial. We were all invited up to Mrs. Griffin's place, where she showed us a good time with in the drink, that is. And we were starting to win against some sides by 30 and 40 points. We'd beaten Taieri and Alhambra. All these clubs had beaten us over the years. Pirates, these sort of sides are around about the middle. We were starting to win against these sides. And also about that time, significantly, the club had sent a junior side to Australia, and some of those younger guys had coming through. They'd had the confidence of playing in the under-20 grade, and they were coming through into the senior side. The likes of Brian Down, Les Patrick, Barry Simpson, I see here tonight, and Bob Clark. By the time 1972-73 come around, we had a combination of experience and youth in our side. And in that 1972 season, we scored something 385 points, which must go as close to a record for this club. 1973, Jack McLaughlin appeared on the scene. He had been previously assistant coach to Gordon Webb. We'd used Jack's famous defensive pattern, which certainly helped us in those early days too. But Jack came in as a coach in 1973 in his own right. And I look back on that year in particular. It was Jack McLaughlin I look on as the Kavanagh Southern liaison, Jack McLaughlin, in my mind, fits in with the same sort of situation that we have here in Green Island. There was a rare combination of football brains, and fortunately he had the talent to develop on. And there would be a lot of people that said over the times that he was fortunate in so much as he had talent. Well, he certainly was, but at the same time he developed that talent. He gave a lot of those players individual coaching, and this club certainly owes a lot to Jack McLaughlin. And the reason I leave Ken out is because Ken, along with myself, is the only survivor from that 1962 team, and I don't know how Ken feels about it, but I'm very proud to have played for Green Island during that era, because I think it's one that's really outstanding in our history. Until we won the senior banner, 4 years in the senior A, and we scored 330 points in the 1973 year. And I'll just read briefly a headline from the newspapers after we won that banner in 1973. Amid scenes of wild rugby fervour, Green Island carried off the senior championship at Carisbrook today for the first time in the club's history. Carisbrook's biggest crowd of the club season saw Green Island draw 12-all with Varsity A and finish a point clear on the championship table. Hundreds of excited Green Island supporters gave their side a rousing reception as they left the field to be presented with the trophy. And that's what it was like. It was fantastic. We had busloads of people would go and see us, and it wasn't only Green Island people, they're coming from all over the place to watch us play rugby in those days. And I look back on it, and it just is, you know, some of the best times that I've ever had. I'm going to finish now, but before I do so, I would just like to say, in the opportunity that I've had to speak here tonight, of course, I was only given 10 minutes, and I'm sure I'm over that now, but I can't do justice to all the people in this club that have made up the club as to what it is today. I haven't mentioned the administrators, I haven't mentioned the supporters, and I haven't mentioned the players in the lower grades, but they all contributed to make this club what it is today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I'm sure everybody will agree that John was not only a fine player, but he's also a very fine speaker. And we'll have now a few moments recess while you refill your glasses and do what you want to do, and then I'll introduce our next guest speaker. Having not met our second speaker, I feel that reading a letter we received from him a short time ago, a most appropriate way of introducing him. And the letter goes, "Dear Brian, thank you for your note concerning the Centennial celebrations. I'm quite flattered that you want me to be a guest speaker. However, I doubt if 5 or 10 minutes would be enough. During my illustrious years with the Green Island Club from 1953 to 1962, I scored 3 tries. One was in 1955 on the South Dunedin Oval. The second was in 1958 at the pavilion end of Miller Park, and the third was in 1960 at the top end of the same ground. Playing conditions, strength of opposition, number of players involved in the movements, congratulations and drinks afterwards for each of these momentous events will surely take the better part of an evening. I would not be so bold as to say that these 3 achievements had any significant developments in the growth of the Green Island Club or the district in particular, but certainly they should not be dismissed by some casual passing reference. Please rethink your program. Looking forward to seeing you in June. Regards to everyone. Signed, Jim Snakefoot Fagan."
And on the bus back, as you can appreciate, you're having a couple of sherbets, and someone said, let's not go to work tomorrow, let's go on a grand tour of Central Otago. And I said, that's a great idea. And Morton Poppery said, that's a marvellous idea. and Ronnie Ogle, a great big Irish fella, who thought anything was a great idea, said, yes, I'll be a nut, he says, I'll be a nut. And Keith Adams said, I'm sick of bloody plastering. Yeah, that's a great idea. So And we met at the Royal Hotel at 9 o'clock. And I'll be honest with you, it was my intention just to meet them and go to work and start at 10 o'clock. But you can appreciate, you know, everyone is absolutely full of booze after the weekend. And the first couple of drinks sparked everybody off, and we said, right, we're off. Central, here we come, piled in the car, and got as far as Outram. And we had a few drinks in Outram, played snooker and things, and someone said, let's go to Mosgiel. And we went to Mosgiel, and I recall hanging from drain pipes and things, and doing Tarzan calls, which I'm very good at. And we decided that it was getting too dark to drive, so we'd go back to town. And on the way back to town, someone said, Keith Stewart's got some home brew. So we went up to Keith Stewart's place, and memory's a bit hazy, but I clearly recall a very angry Keith Stewart. Get those drunks out of here, he said. I don't want to see those drunks in here because we said we didn't like his home brew. And we went to town and we stayed at I'd forgotten the name of the hotel, but it seems it was the captain, the Robbie Burns. And we had a few drinks there. And sometime during the night, the police raided the hotel. And the owner said, upstairs to the bedrooms, upstairs to the bedrooms. We piled into the beds, fully clothed. And the police came up and came into my bedroom and hauled back the clothes, and I got up and stood there, you know, I was caught. And Jimmy Reeve, is he here tonight? Jim Reeve here tonight? Jim Reeve was absolutely pissed. He was so drunk, and he was lying like this. And I will never, ever forget this, gentlemen. I will never ever forget this walloper shaking Jimmy Reeve by the shoulders like this. Shaking Jimmy Reeve with the shoulders like this. And Jimmy Reeve opening up and seeing this great, big, heavy red face with a hat staring down at him. Wake up, son. And this look of fear, real fear. And he just went, and he closed his eyes and went back again. It was, an evil dream as far as he was concerned. Also, I don't want anyone to... I heard tonight someone say that this club started 25 years ago. And I heard tonight a very fine account of what happened from 1962 onwards. Life didn't start for this club 25 years ago. Life started for this club 100 years ago, and as far as I'm concerned, it really started in the early 50s. When I joined the club, in the early 50s, that was a time. You know, we really played hard in those days. And in spite of what you think, sure, we were beaten, and it's nice to hear that we eventually did beat Dunedin. But we were beaten a lot. And I remember, and this is how when you come to these things, you don't really want to hear these stories about yourself. It seems it was opening day for the Green Island Club. And Brian St. John, young chap, straight from Teachers College, brand new, fresh to the club, didn't know anyone at all. And he came in, and he's all bright-eyed and cheery-tailed, and I'm sitting there lacing up my boots, and Brian says, hello. He said, I'm Brian St. John. And I said, we don't talk to anybody on opening day. So don't think I was serious. Don't think we didn't play hard in those days. We truly did. We tried very hard. I have a lot of deep affection for this club, and this is one of the reasons why I'm here, because I wanted to see people. I won't go through a long, detailed account of who the coaches were and the games we played and everything else. Nor will I tell you about these 3 tries, although they are worthwhile describing. I do want to say something very quickly about the people that, the coaches particular. I recall this club really getting off the ground in 1953 when they had a fantastic 5th grade side, and the coach of that was Sandy Taieri. And that was all they had in that team, because if I said to you they had a 3rd grade side, the 3rd grade side, they would be the first to admit this, although they tried very hard, they were the equivalent of the varsity drinking team. I don't leave the stage. All right. And the coach was Sandy Taieri, and they had a fantastic team, they really did. And then in 1954, we moved into 4th grade, and I think it was at that time the club really started to engender a spirit of enthusiasm. They had fantastic workers, but not very many fantastic players. But we did have people like, I recall with deep affection, old Herb Martin. I recall Arthur Berry. Arthur Berry, who had the biggest calves I think I've ever seen in anyone. And when we played the one game, I remember in Carisbrook, the first game we ever played in Carisbrook, and Arthur Berry was there, and he kicked some fantastic clearing kicks, even though he was a middle row forward. We had a good team in those days. You know, Arthur Berry was a coach, and he, Herb Martin, Bert Harvey, have I forgotten someone, Morton? Anyone? There's a name. Anyway, these people, and the time they gave to young people like us was really, in my mind, quite significant. I'll never forget that. But I also want to say this. We heard tonight, and it seems the thing to bring up photographs and say these are the players and all the rest of it. In my mind, the team that really set this club alight was the foundation, the senior grade team in 1960. And although they say there was a senior B side, we were playing teams who were first grade sides. We were playing Kaikrai, we were playing Taieri. And sure, we were getting hidings, but we had a fantastic team. And for those of you who haven't been around the walls and haven't seen it, the team was Arnold Moore, President, Reeve, McEwen, St John, Adam, Kitto, Nind, and Arthur Berry was coach. Bert Harvey was assistant coach, Ian Brown, Lamb, Williams, Barnes, Ogle, Finley, Potbury, McPherson. Then there was Noel Gibson, Nind, Milburn, McPherson, Noel, myself, and McDonnell, and of course the ubiquitous Lindsay Moyle, who never used to be everywhere. This was the team in my mind that really set Green Island alive. And all of you people, and you senior people tonight, you senior players, and all of you people who have listened to John go through the halcyon years of the 70s, believe they started in the 50s and they continued through to the 60s. And I want to finish on this note. I had the pleasure of being here 5 years ago with a team of Australian under-12 schoolboys. This was my local junior club, and we brought the kids over. And at that time, you'd had a rather severe landslide, and the club was fairly shaky, and the future of the pavilion was very shaky. And we weren't very sure even if we should come, but the word was, yes, please do come, and we did. And we had a truly wonderful time. And just to give you an idea of how deeply the parents who organized this trip felt about the marvelous time they'd had, when we went back to Sydney, we had a fish night, and we raised $1,000 for this club, and we sent this money over to you, and I know it was very well received. That was done on the basis of the wonderful hospitality and friendship that was extended to us by the Green Island Club at that time. And I know that, in fact, I knew that this would happen, because I remembered the Green Island Club, I remembered the people, the personalities. I can't go through them all now, but I do want to say that it's been a most wonderful experience for me to be with this club. At this moment, it's the most moving experience to be able to say these things to you. And when I leave on Monday, I know that I'll be poured on the plane. And I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Well, I'm only sorry we don't have time to have one or two more speakers. I'm sure that there are many people here who have stories and reminiscences, such as John and Jim. But time doesn't permit that, and it would stop you from drinking, and I'm sure you wouldn't like us for that. But we do have one more little thing that we have to do. It's nothing to do with tonight's format, and Mort, if you'd like to come up and explain, please. Or, yes, that's the best way, explain. What's about to happen?
Settle down, you young ones, senior players and others. Very nice to have you all here tonight. I have a very important thing to do tonight. The wife is at home. Oh, hell, that's bright, isn't it? I'm not a talker like John nor Jim. John always did very well. He was very good with his elocution. Jim always just talked on and off the field. Never got him nowhere, but the thing is this. We have here tonight 100 years of rugby behind us, and I think it is very synonymous, would that be the word? That it coincides with our evening here tonight that I can ask you to listen in for a gentleman who has done perhaps more for this club than anyone else here tonight. And I name here Mr. Bert Harvey. I do not have to go back through the record books or anything to tell you that Bert Harvey was president of this club when he was 28 years of age. He played for the seniors till he was 37, I think. Am I correct, Bert? And I don't know why he knocked off, actually, but it must have been to take up coaching. But Bert, not only to this club, but to rugby in Green Island, in Otago, in New Zealand, his name is linked with rugby. And the point I'm getting to is tonight is Bert's 60th birthday. And I think it is very appropriate that we're all gathered here today, the chaps you played with, Bert, the people you know from sister clubs, the young ones you've helped with their rugby, and your supporters. And could I ask you to come up, Bert, please, and have a slab of cake, Bert. It reads, "Happy birthday, Bert," and Bert is here to greet you with his usual smile. Congratulations, Bert.
I would have to just make a small apology to those who have not been around the club for the last couple of years. I have a small voice problem, as you would probably pick up by writing. You're reasonably perceptive. It's a great feeling just to be here amongst Green Island. That's the guts of the whole weekend, the whole Green and Golds. I'll be having a few words to say here on Sunday evening, so I won't steal the thunder of John and Jim by outdoing them this evening. You're not one-eyed, I would merely thank you very much for the kind sentiments expressed, and perhaps enlarge on that later on over the weekend. Thank you.
We'd just like to take a little bit of your time for the formal part of this evening. There's 2 trophies here to be duly presented, and I'd ask our Chairman of Committees, Mr. Morton Poppery, to come forward.
Thank you very much, Gordon. I'd I'd welcome everyone here tonight, especially our guest opposition teams for the day, the players from Brighton and their supporters, and those also from Taieri. And it's extremely gratifying to see such a sea of faces around us with this our centennial year, with the celebrations, a lot of them being concentrated on this weekend, shall we say. We have a function on tonight, as you all know, which commences at 8 o'clock, which you can attend only if you have a ticket. So therefore it is closed at this stage, so ticket holders only will be allowed in. The bar, unfortunately, we will have to shut a wee bit earlier to allow the cleaning up and prepare things for the night. So 6:30 the bar will be shutting, but I'd say quite a few you'll be pleased to see it shut anyhow. Now we have, firstly, our President, Mr. Bill Williams. I would ask him to say a few words to you. Bill, please.
Thank you very much, Mort. First of all, Mrs. Bezett and family, Bert Harvey and family, ladies and gentlemen, visiting clubs, especially the clubs from Taieri and Brighton, with which Green Island have had a very long but happy competitive association with, I welcome you all here tonight. I congratulate Green Island on winning both the Bezett and the Harvey Memorial. These two, thank you chaps, and what's more, I think anyone that follows Green Island, especially myself anyway, I don't think I'd take much more of that or I'll be looking for Dick Bunton. These two trophies are keenly sought, and the rivalry that is involved between these two clubs indicates the special meaning that both these trophies have to both of our clubs. The Harvey Memorial is in memory of a Mr. Bill Harvey, the elder of three brothers of the Harvey family, who was lost over Germany in 1944. Bert and Bob Harvey put forward this trophy in 1947, and since then it has been played for every year, even though at times both clubs have been scratching for players. In fact, during that time the Brighton club even had to make up a team, and that was the only game they had in that particular year, so it does show the keenness to play this game. This trophy has always been a hard-fought trophy in the grade that it has been played, and it has always attracted good crowds and good support. And probably for most of us in both clubs, at some stage in our career we have played for that trophy, and therefore it's personal to all of us. The Bezett Memorial, it was donated by the DMBA in memory of a Mr. Ted Bezett, who was our club patron for many years, excuse me, and a respected member of the Green Island community. All Ted's boys have played for this club at some time, and the family still support the club with the same enthusiasm that Ted engendered. This trophy was first played for in 1973, and it invokes a special kind of competitive spirit between the senior sides of both Taieri and Green Island. All I would like to say now is to wish both Taieri and Brighton a very luck in their future, and thank them very much for the games that they gave us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bill. Without any further ado, could I kindly ask the Brighton captain, Alan Watton, and the Green Island captain, Terry Foster, if they would come forward, please. And I would like to ask Mr. Bert Harvey, who was 60 yesterday. We covered that one last night, but we'll go on for a day or two yet, Bert. If he could kindly come forward, and I think it very appropriate that we have him here to pass over the trophy. Thank you very much. Here we are, Bert. Bert.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to take part in this presentation of the trophy. Over the years, I think this trophy has indeed engendered quite a reasonable spirit of rivalry between Green Island and Brighton. And I do feel it's been beneficial to both clubs. I can recall some of the earlier games for this trophy, and they were quite hilarious. Not the games themselves, but perhaps the subsequent 6, 8 and 12-hour sessions afterwards. I'm quite sure there are with us this evening some people who were involved in those same happenings, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. But I won't hold you any further. It gives me great pleasure, and I mean this very sincerely, to present this trophy to the winning skipper, Taieri of Green Island.
Thanks very much, Bert. On behalf of the team, I'd like to thank you. We're very proud to win it, especially in the Centennial year. We felt we won the game 20 minutes burst in the second half. We thought we had your stuff. You come back at us again in the end, but still, that's the way it goes. I'm very proud of the way our team went, and also like to thank Brighton for consenting to play the game on our ground in the Centennial year. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Green Island. It's a privilege to be here in the Centennial year and play the Harvey Memorial. It's just a pity we didn't win it. But, you know, you couldn't sort of take it away from them. They were the best team on the day, so I'd just like to congratulate the Green Island team for winning the game. So thanks very much.
Very well covered by the three gentlemen. I thought it was a terrific game too. Now, if we could have Mr. Doug Milburn. And if we could have the senior captains, Ken Bloxham from Taieri and Paul Bennett from Green Island, please. And I would ask Mr. Doug Milburn to present the trophy to the winning captain. Thank you.
Oh, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I must congratulate Green Island in the Centennial year. It's been a great occasion today. At half-time today, I thought this cup could change. We haven't had much of a monopoly on the Bezett Memorial, which, as you all know, was in memory of Ted Bezett, who was one of our fellow directors in the DMBA. But the way our boys went today, and the breaks didn't come our way, I hope in the future that Taieri's name will be more prominent on this trophy, which is keenly coveted at this stage. And to the winning captain of Green Island, is he here?
Right behind. Have we got Ken Bloxham here?
Yeah. Congratulations to you. Your side displayed an excellent second half rush, which sort of nipped it over, but we'll be back again. Congratulations to you. Also, perhaps to Ken, I think the boys went very well, and they put up a great performance, and it was a very good encounter. Congratulations, Ken, on the team's effort also.
Be managed to have the visiting captain first, Ken Bloxham.
Mr Chairman, previous speakers, ladies and gentlemen, so on my behalf to thank the Green Island senior side for the game today, and also to congratulate the club on the Centennial and the Centennial celebrations this weekend. Your senior side retained the Bezett Memorial and have done you proud in your Centennial game, and all credit to your team. To our boys, thanks very much. The first half we went out there and you did what I asked for. We never scored points which we were actually after, to put more pressure on them. And second half waned a wee bit when Green Island come back into the game and took the game to us, and they were rewarded with points, well scored points. Without any further, I'd just like to congratulate Benny and the Green Island boys for making the top 6 and for retaining the Bezett Memorial, and wish them the best in the second round, and I hope we're going to be there to have a second crack at you. Thanks, Benny. My boys like to be upstanding, and we'll drink a bumper toast to the Green Island Club and the senior side for the weekend and for the future years to come. For...
Paul Bennett.
Thanks very much for that rousing sing-song, Taieri. I wish we could sing and sing something back for you, but we're hopeless at singing. Kevin's at my side here. He's yelling out who to thank. I hope I don't miss anyone. I'll try and remember everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the referee, John Robinson, for today's game. We're always pleased with the referee's performance, particularly this year. We don't chip referees. Secondly, I'd like to thank Europa for the outfits that they've fitted the senior side in this year. I'm sure you'll agree that it makes a different change from jeans and that sort of thing. Thirdly, I'd like to thank Paradise Travel. I don't know whether you saw us today for the tracksuits that they have supplied us for the season. It's a shame that they've arrived so late, but nevertheless you'll get your mileage out of them in the next 8 or 9 games. Who else, Kevin? Oh, that's right. I'd like to also thank very, very much the support from the terrorists that we got today. The fellas were... Well, shut up, Gavin. The fellas actually said that they couldn't hear the line-out calls, the backs couldn't hear the back moves. Perhaps that's why we muffed so many things up, but it was great, and it really gave us a feeling to try and ram the game home. To the actual game, I thought we were a wee bit lucky, really, to come out of it the way we did. We mucked around too much, we muffed too many chances. We can play a lot better than that, I assure you. However, full credit to Taieri. In the first half, they completely bustled us off our normal game, and we'll just have to work on that. I'd like to finish with one small little joke that I have here.
Thanks, Taieri, for using the ground on Wednesday night.
Thanks, Mort. I also forgot to thank the Taieri Club for the use of their grounds for training last Wednesday night. We never thought we'd get anywhere to train, especially Taieri. Playing Taieri in our Centennial match was great stuff, and thanks very much for that. It just shows the spirit that exists between the two clubs. I'll carry on with this short, sharp joke. Our fellas have heard it, but the rest of the club probably haven't. It's about this priest who was walking along the footpath one day and he spots this little boy in the gutter, and he's got an eyedropper full of acid, and he's dropping it on these worms, and these worms are shrivelling up and fading away, you see, and the priest comes up to him and he says, "Son, don't do that." And the wee boy looks up at him and says, "Why not?" And he said, "Because it's not nice, son." And he said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you my bottle of holy water if you'll give me your eyedropper full of acid." The little boy looks up at him and says, "What can your bottle of holy water do that my eyedropper full of acid can't do?" And the priest said, "Well, I'll tell you what, son." He said, "The other day I was in the maternity ward of a hospital. He said, there was a woman about to give birth, and I put this bottle of holy water on her stomach, and she passed the baby." And the wee boy looks up at him and he says, "So what?" He says, "The other day I put my eyedropper full of acid on a dog's balls and it passed a V8. Thanks very much. I'd just like to finish off and ask the Green Island chaps to charge your glasses, please, and drink a toast to the Taieri team and wish them all the best and hope, like hell, that they get in the top 6 here with us. Taieri. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Doug. Yes, our seniors have always been very good singers. And the terrace he refers to I would regard as the slopes of Kilimanjaro or the likes. Break your bloody neck. Now we do have our normal Saturday night awards through the grades. Just running through the scoreboard, which we normally do, we have the seniors won. Well done, chaps, 18-11. But the senior reserves got beaten in turn by Taieri in a good game, 16-6. The seconds, 13-all draw. The third Blues, as you know, beat Brighton 27-9. The third Whites had a day off. The under-20s went down to a strong varsity blue team, but was certainly not disgraced, 32-19. The under-19s beat Pirates 36-0, and the under-18s went down to Southern 16-7. So all in all, not bad for the weekend. Right, without any further ado, the Player of the Day award. Through the grades, the names handed in are from the seniors, Bruce McElroy. Senior reserves, Brent Elliott. The seconds, Ashley Duncan. The third Blues, Russell Barclay. The under-20s, Barney Miller. The under-19s, Pat Iverson. And the under-18s, Trevor Griffin. Just prior to awarding the $100 travel voucher from Paradise Travel, I would ask the Russell Barclay from the third Blues, who gets the, what is it? 2 bottles of Villa Maria. 2 bottles of Villa Maria, with the thanks of the sponsors. If he could come up, please, Russell. And while you're coming up, if we could have Trevor Griffin from the under-18s, who gets the junior award for the DB bag. If he could come up too, please. We have those 2 up, thank you. Well done, Russell. Have we got Trevor Griffin here? He's fighting his way through 800 bodies. While Trevor is up here, I would ask him to draw the winner from the bag for the Paradise Travel Player of the Day. And it goes to Bruce McElroy from the seniors. If you could come up, Bruce, thank you. Not a bad effort for the day. 2 tries and a $100 travel voucher. Well done, Bruce. Well, that's about all. Enjoy yourself, have a few quiet ales, but I would respect your help in leaving at a sensible hour because we do have a function on tonight. Thank you very much.
Don't forget the souvenirs that are on sale, the ties, Club Centennial ties, they're on sale, $9.95 each at the bar. There's pens and lighters. So there are souvenirs of the Centennial weekend available at the main bar.